Welcome to our channel, African Dignity. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you will enjoy the ride. On Monday, the 20th of March 2023, the nation experienced what was called the national shutdown. The national shutdown is a very dangerous concept because it means you are playing with the feelings of a very poor population, which forms the majority of the country, to awaken them to rise against the government. A shutdown where we say the shutdown will continue until Cyril Ramaphosa leaves office. That is nothing else but a coup. And the CIC is a very lucky person because he is allowed to commit any crime in South Africa, including inciting violence, and yet he is still out on bail. He is still out on bail in a case which he committed in East London, where he was seen on national television firing an AK-47 in the air, which is a crime of discharging a firearm in a public place. That crime carries a punishment of more than 10 years, and he was allowed to do it. He is out on bail on that. And this government, under a very weak president, is busy allowing him to then threaten the security of the country and make sure that this country uses its very scarce resources to guard against looting when his so-called foot soldiers are marching all over South Africa. The CIC, in the first place, is actually in the process of forming a private army where he has called himself a CIC and has called his followers fighters. So we can see that there is no peace. It's people fighting. One day, when people are really tired, when people have lost hope in the current government, when somebody says, let's close down the country, that will be the day we will have uncontrolled violence, where people will lose their lives, where there will be bloodshed, and who stands to gain, and nobody will benefit out of that. It will just be a calamity that is unnecessary, that needed to be nipped in the bud by a straight thinking governance, which South Africa lacks. We are now in a quagmire where we see somebody who wants to emulate Hitler, with Shivambu being his Goering, and with Ndlozi being his Minister of Propaganda, Goebbels, and with Dlamini being the Mr. Heinrich Himmler. So he's got all his soldiers set. The next thing is for him to force his way through this government and make sure that he suspends the constitution and rules South Africa through military rule. That is the problem that South Africa is now facing, and nobody is prepared for it. Nobody is prepared for that calamity where we will be ruled by way of a military rule, by way of dictatorship. It is time that we now come together and find a way to remove all these imposters who are threatening the safety of our people. And the only way we can do that is to vote them out of power in 2024. The problem that we have is that we don't have a party to vote that will change people's lives. But I am sure God will find a way. By 2024, there will be somebody who will come up and speak the language that makes sense to us, and we will be able to change this government, because there is no need for people who are in parliament to go around saying that the country must be shut down. and yet they are in parliament. They have been in power for 10 years, and there's nothing that they can point to say they've done for a village, just to develop one village and make sure that the people's lives there are changed. These people are earning a lot of money in parliament, but they are doing nothing. Today, most of the poor people are in agreement with the CIC when it says the shutdown was successful on Monday. The shutdown could not have been successful because the timing was wrong, because it was on a day before a Sunday, before a holiday. So most of the people had arranged with their employers to say Monday should be a holiday, should be a long weekend, and it was a long weekend. And also, some ministers from within the ANC had threatened the bus owners who were supposed to bus EF people to these rallies, to say if your buses may be used in blocking the roads, your buses will be impounded and you will get them after 12 months. No, so nobody wants to lose business just because of one day, the 20th of March 2023. So the bus owners and even the taxi owners refuse to use their taxis to ferry people to these rallies. It was not a success because the aim of the march was to dethrone Cyril Ramaphosa by illicit means, not through the ballot, but by a way of a coup. It did not succeed. South Africa will not allow a situation where a sitting president will be removed by a protest march, whether it could be a rolling mass action for days. South Africa are not ready for a coup. They will defend a coup. The problem that we have is that, like Hitler, Malema has got an army. Adolf Hitler started his army with only 55 people. Malema today has doubled that amount, or even tripled that amount of people who are prepared to die for him. He's shown that he's got the power to shout once and everybody speaks his language. Whether you go to Cape Town, you go to Bloemfontein, you go to Northern Cape in Kimberley, you go to Pretoria, you go to Durban. In Umtata, people were speaking his language. It's like a scratched record that repeats the same thing. People saying the same thing, synchronized message in one voice, saying they are protesting in order to dethrone Ramaphosa. That is a threat to democracy. A person who's out on bail cannot afford to do that, to threaten a democratically elected president by way of a shutdown or a protest. We know that today everybody is crying about load shedding. Load shedding was prepared by whites many years ago. Whites created power stations that would only satisfy white minority. Whites never built power stations to cater for black people. So if people come to power and don't build power stations, obviously there will be load shedding, because this is just a matter of one loaf which was fed to 2 people, now is fed to 20 people, and you expect everybody to be satisfied. It cannot happen. Same thing applies with the reservoirs. The reservoirs that were built by whites during apartheid were only meant for white communities, not blacks. Blacks would go to the rivers and fetch their water. Now they've got taps in their houses, and yet this government has failed to build reservoirs in order to satisfy the need of people who need water in the rural areas. So we need to be careful and not follow the way of all other failed states, because the results are dire. So viva Africa, viva African dignity.